The matchup of the year, the event of the decade. The race between the tortoise and the hare takes place February 1st during the fourth quarter. Vote on Twitter using hashtag Team Tortoise or hashtag Team Hare with hashtag contest, and you could win your own Mercedes-Benz Big Race viewing party. Visit bigrace.com for complete rules.
You know, I was just talking to one of the guys on the set, and I said, this is not a shot at the Patriots, but Tom Brady's not retiring a Patriot. If Brett Favre can leave little old Green Bay and Indy can kick Peyton Manning out, I got news for you. The kid they just drafted last year, that kid they drafted in New England, they've been drafting and giving up draft picks to find Ryan Mallett. They're looking at a succession plan right now. I've been told by somebody I trust after last draft, they think this new kid's the next Brady. They really do. And they're good enough that he's, by the way, if you've seen this kid, he's like a movie star. He's not going to be a guy that replaces Brady and doesn't have the gravitas. He may be the only quarterback in league history better looking than Brady. And he's just this kind of big, strapping kid. And New England's like, listen, one of the advantages to being great, we don't have to play him for like 3 years. So in New England, they've already got a succession plan going. They think this kid's it. For the record, I've been told it drives Brady crazy. But Belichick likes his players on edge. Belichick likes Tom to go to every practice knowing, new good-looking kid. He's got a really good arm. He's a little more mobile than you. Belichick likes it. That's part of Belichick's thing. So, and that's not a shot. I mean, the Boston media will be outraged if I say it, but he's not ending his career there. He's not going to. He's going to move. Joe Montana moved to Kansas City. Everybody moves. Coaches move, coordinators. Joe Montana left the Niners. Tom Brady is leaving the Patriots. And here's something else to consider. That what has happened in the NFL, I mean, you know, football, you know, how baseball kind of stays the same. Basketball makes slight tweaks. Football changes all the time. I mean, if you go look at a football game on television from 25 years ago, just look at the graphics. Like, you're like, it looks like, you know, 1920. If you watch a baseball or a basketball game, I can watch an old Knicks, Willis Reed. The camera angle's the same ball, same stuff, same kind of graphics, a little updated. Football, we've got lines and graphics and cameras, and football's always been willing to evolve. And one of the reasons, and I asked Rich McKay about this once, former GM of the Bucs, now in Atlanta, and I said, you know, there's a certain sensibility to football that baseball doesn't have, basketball doesn't have. What is it? And he said, football owners all got into this league, and they're all like 50, 60, 70, you know, most of the NFL owners. They all grew up and baseball was a national pastime. So even though they've lapped baseball, NFL owners see themselves as chasing. They're men like our fathers who were in wars and depressions. Our fathers don't really have a finish line. Like, you just work to the end. Like, we grew up differently. We haven't had our father's reality or our father's life. NFL owners are going to always see themselves. Their sensibility is, we got to catch baseball. Got to catch baseball. They never forget where baseball is. They're always looking at baseball. That's national pastime. No, we are. We got to get bigger. Baseball has often sort of comfortably and arrogantly, hey, no changes, driver's seat. It's hurt baseball. So football is always changing. My point being, one of the rule changes is you can't touch the quarterback anymore. Most guys get out. Favre was just beat up. Kurt Warner was just beat up. Drew Bledsoe's like, I'm tired. I'm beat up. Troy Aikman, concussions. Steve Young, can't touch the quarterback anymore. Yeah, Breeze now is kind of beat up. Brady, about 7-8 years ago, tweaked his diet. When's the last time? Think about this. Name the last time you remember Brady getting smoked. How about 8 years ago? I mean, really, when's the last time you're like, oh, Brady took a shot? I watch every Patriot snap. I couldn't tell you the last time. So the game has evolved. The game's changing. You can't touch the quarterback. Translation, as long as the Patriots' offensive line is formidable, and it generally is, it wasn't for about a month this season. It's the first time in a decade Tom didn't have a great O-line, or at least really good. Nobody's going to touch Tom. The owners changed the game years ago. Jerry Jones and a lot of these owners said, okay, we're paying these quarterbacks all this money. Can you protect our assets? Can we nothing's worse than watching NFL backup quarterbacks play. You know, you get to week 13, you're like, this backup plays, that backup. As much as you love the NFL, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch. When Tony Romo left the Cowboys, it wasn't even the same team. Dez can be out. DeMarco can be out. Romo was out for like a week and a half. You're like, Cowboys are awful. So you can't touch the quarterbacks anymore. David, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. I hear you're furious that Brady would leave. Go ahead.
You know, the only team, Tom Brady, and I happen to know that his middle name is Patriot because I was there and seen the birth certificate on the day of his birth.
Yeah.
Colin, maybe he'll leave to go to another team, to coach Pop Warner football where one of his kids are playing. That guy was born a Patriot. He's living his life as a Patriot, and he's going to leave that team as a Patriot, and he's not going to go on the Brett Favre tour of the NFL when he gets done with the Patriots.
Yeah, he is actually.
Well, where are you coming up with this?
My brain, it's functionable.
Well, Colin, please. I love you dearly. I kid you not. I never miss your show. I watch you at home when I go home. I record on DVR your show, and I watch it at night when I miss it in the radio in the car all day. But I'm telling you right now.
And I'm telling you right now, he's going. He's leaving. I love that you tape my show. My wife doesn't even listen to my show. You and I could be boys. He's leaving. Favre left Green Bay. Peyton left Indy. Tom Brady's leaving New England. You just got to listen. It's not like our kids that we love. Our kids could become meth addicts. You'll love them to the end. You just have to understand everything with sports is transitional. It's all transitional. We don't own the players. Hell, the teams leave cities. Teams leave cities. Brady won't leave New England. Of course he's going to leave. People get mad. He is my quarterback. His middle name is, who knows what Tom's middle, do we know what Tom Brady's middle name is? That guy got ticked off right there. That guy was not happy with me. But you know I'm right on that. Is there anybody, do I have another call? Anybody else mad? Why are people fighting this? His middle name is Edward. It's not Patriot. You big liar. Tried to throw that 68-mile-an-hour slitty past me. No way. I got a big staff here. Where's Romanowski? Is he in the subway green room? Hey, Bill, come on in the set. I'm exhausted. I'm fighting off callers. You know, it's just like, folks, we don't own these players. They own themselves. It's transitional. Yo, get out here, man. Stop eating. Well, eat those sandwiches. Get out here.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Welcome back. 4-ring Super Bowl champ Bill Romanowski, Nutrition53.com, which I am a card-carrying member. And I don't have to say this, but I use his products. My wife uses his products. They're unbelievable. Lean1.com, Nutrition53.com. So 10 years ago, Bill, if I said your name, you got a lot of this. Oh, Bill's doing stuff. Those things he goes into and sleeps. Now everybody comes to you.
Exactly. And, to me, I had one body to play the game I loved. And if I took care of my body, I figured out at an early age I could play longer. I could do what I loved longer. And then when I got done playing this game,
you weren't a mess.
That I loved, I could walk, I could move, I could do everything I wanted to do and enjoy my life. And enjoy, you make a lot of money playing the game of football. And then there's a lot of guys that are so beat up they can't enjoy it.
Do you remember, did you have an epiphany when you were playing? Did you see an older player? Like, what clicked for you, and did you say, I don't want to walk like that?
Oh, well, there were many of them.
Epidemic almost.
You know what? A guy that stands out to me is Tommy Hart. He was a coach for the 49ers, but you could see he had he walked a little crooked. He had a knee that was going to need replaced. He had a hip that was going to need replaced. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want that. And we saw him every day, working with us, but I did not want my body to look like that.
During your playing days, when was the first time, because I talked about Tom Brady today. Tom's like taking it to a new level.
Yeah.
Won't have a beer during the season, and people are like,
smart. He's smart. That was my edge. It was like no alcohol was. I was going to feel better the next day. I was going to recover better, and I was going to be better. Let everybody drink. Let the opposing teams drink all you want. In fact, I'll pay for it.
So you felt you weren't naturally gifted enough to just be crazy.
I needed every edge I could get, and that was one. That was one of my edges. Okay,
so let's talk about this because I'm a believer in edges.
Yes.
And I have not been defending Brady, but I've said, folks, Wall Street, football players, broadcasters, we're all making our bosses uncomfortable. I'm totally comfortable with that culture. I think all these quarterbacks dink around with the ball. The NFL now is outraged because it went public and they look bad. It's pine tar and baseball.
There's no doubt in my mind that Tom Brady, who picks up that ball every day and makes millions of dollars and gets to do what he loves to do, just like I said earlier, I love playing football. Tom Brady loves playing the game.
Loves it.
It's not about money for him, okay? It's about winning. And for him, when that ball has a little less air in it, it feels a little bit better in that hand. And in fact, I think every game that ball is exactly like he had it last week.
What edges did you have? You can say
I had a lot of them. I used to use silicone on my jersey.
Okay,
I used to lace up my jersey on the sides. Jim Burt taught me that from the Giants.
The Giants offensive lineman.
Yeah, defensive nose guard.
What number was he?
64.
64, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking O-lineman.
So, he taught me how to secure my pads to where nobody could hold me. If nobody could hold me, nobody could block me. That was the way I looked at it. So I got to a point where I put silicone on. Once they outlawed silicone, I put Vaseline on. And then once they outlawed Vaseline, I put Vaseline on with a Q-tip.
What do you mean?
I still put it on, but I used a Q-tip to put it on. I didn't lather it on.
Were you the only guy doing it?
One of the only.
Okay, now I'm a big believer in Stickum.
Oh, yeah. I used it every game.
It's the best, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I use it in my private life.
Because
I like Stickum.
Hey, if I was going to get a chance to catch a ball and intercept it, I wanted to be able to catch it.
How could you – here's the question, though, Bill, because officials, you didn't want your Stickum on the ball.
Yeah.
So where did you apply it, and how did you use it without detection?
I very rarely got to touch the ball.
Yeah.
So, but when I did – that was not an issue.
Okay.
Because there were very few times I got interceptions.
How many did you have in your career?
20.
Now, you played in the Super Bowl. You had 20 picks?
Yeah. 19 or 20.
That's a lot of picks.
Yeah, it's not counting. They don't count playoffs and Super Bowls. So, I think it's 19. But it'd be more than that if we counted,
You're still getting robbed by this league.
I know.
It's really outrageous.
How dare they do that?
Bill Romanowski, Nutrition53.com.
Hyperbaric chamber.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Again, Bill Romanowski's doing the hyperbaric chamber. That guy's out in California. He is out there now. Tiger Woods. Don't all the guys call you?
Absolutely. And now here's the deal. We're going to find out 10 years from now it's the only thing that will heal the brain from a concussion. We will find that out. And I was doing it 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But it's not the norm. It is not the norm. It's getting to be more the norm. And the more high-profile players that do it, the more it's going to be mainstream. And then the doctors are going to have to look at it. Because what forces the medical community is people. Is we find out about things. We got access to the internet now. So we can study things, look them up, research from Europe, because Europe, it's very common over there.
Yeah, a little more liberal with their laws.
A little more liberal. All of a sudden, we start going to doctors over and over again, asking them about different nutrients, asking them about different modalities, and they then start thinking about it, looking at it, researching it.
Can it profit?
And they do it.
Yeah, we do it when we can make a profit.
Absolutely. Hey, it's all about can I bill insurance? And eventually, hyperbarics, you have to be able to get to a point where you can bill insurance. Once you can bill insurance,
it's all in.
It's all in.
Bill Romanowski, should I take a break now? I want to keep him for the next segment. Can you stick around?
Yeah.
Okay. All All right, Bill Romanowski, back in a second. The Herd on ESPN Radio.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
Who's got the better roster, Seattle or New England?
Seattle, hands down, the best roster across the board.
Last 2-3 years in the league, probably.
Absolutely.
San Francisco, I thought, was pretty close a couple years ago.
Yes.
So, best roster, though, doesn't mean always the best team. What would concern you? Today, you're on that Seattle team, and you know you've got a better roster.
Yes.
Younger, almost collegiate. But what scares you about New England?
What scares me about New England is the amount of points they're able to score.
And quickly sometimes.
And quickly. So that, to me, is going to be the game, is can they hold New England and can they hold them down to points? So here's the deal. Earl Thomas, clearly one of your best guys, your safety valve. When you're playing a Tom Brady, he is a key factor in the game. Well, guess what? The injury, to me, with him, the separated shoulder, that is an issue in this game. I don't care what anybody says. When you're playing Tom Brady and your safety has got a separated shoulder and he's one of the best players and he's your safety valve.
And Tom knows it.
And he knows it, they're going to go after him. And it's Kronk against him. They're going to, Belichick, that's what he does better than, that's what Parcells did. He learned it from him. Go after their best player or their weakness and attack it and see if you can attack their best player. And if you beat them, you got them beat. But if they do have a weakness, go after that. And if you can expose it, play after play after play. And here's the thing, is can Earl put on those big hits? Because that's what makes him special. Hey, if you can run, there's a lot of guys that can run in the National Football League, but he can run and hit. Yeah. When you can strike like he can strike and run like he can run, he is as special as anybody who's ever played.
I believe, Bill Romanowski joining us, I believe, and I've said this, we always talk about pre-snap, pre-snap, pre-snap. And it's hard for a lot of fans to understand it because we're not in huddles. But what fans can see, what I can see, is post-snap. Ball snap end of play, 7.5 seconds. I've said this. I think Russell Wilson is the smartest player I've ever seen snap to end of play. Now, maybe I'm overstating it. What do you see with him? Because I don't think the Patriots have a massive quarterback advantage in this game necessarily.
You know what? It's all about how they attack him. To me, if I'm attacking Russell Wilson, I'm going to force him to be a pocket quarterback. Yeah. And can he beat you for 60 minutes staying in that pocket?
So do you create edge rushes?
Yeah, what you do is you rush him up the field, keep him in the pocket. If he gets through, he's going to get through the interior line of scrimmage, and it's harder for him to make plays. Where he's super special, and you see it over and over again, is where they cut the field in half. He gets on the edge, and he's able to make plays out of the box. And he's as special as anybody because he doesn't take a sack. He'll get rid of the ball, or he's going to buy time to where his receivers will get open downfield. Because once you get out of 3, 4, 5 seconds, and he's buying that amount of time,
you can only cover guys.
Exactly. You can't. As special as Revis is, he can't cover Curse for 7 seconds.
Well, you face Brett Favre.
Yes.
Russell's got a little of Brett.
He does. The one thing we always did with Brett is we never wanted to go after him because if he got out of the pocket, that's when he was special. If we sat him in the pocket, we played cover 3, all of a sudden you'd see him pumping a little bit. You're like, I think he's having trouble reading our coverage.
And by the way, Brett threw a lot of picks.
Yes, he did.
He'd try to jam balls into spaces.
Yes.
But once he got out of the pocket, actually there's not many quarterbacks like that. Russell and Brett are – because Steve Young was a better pocket passer, even though he could move. You could argue that Brett was better outside the pocket.
He was absolutely better outside the pocket. Russell Wilson is the best ever, I think ever, who has played in the NFL. The best young talent for sure, but maybe the best ever out of the pocket with how smooth he is, the decision-making he has. It's effortless for him. The game completely slows down. For most guys, when they get out of the pocket, oh, my God, there's a sense of urgency, and they
I'm going to get hit.
I'm going to get hit. I got to make a play. I got to do something.
For him,
because
it slows.
For him, it just slows. It's like a ballet for him.
People see Pete Carroll as very pro player and Belichick a little anti-player. Howie Long said a couple days ago, he goes, I think it'd be exhausting to play for Belichick. He is the only NFL coach, I'm told, that adds homework. He makes you take homework home.
I like that.
Well, Howie's like, it's great, but it's exhausting. He goes, I don't know if I can take that. But are we painting Pete Carroll into too much of a hippy-dippy guy? Is it possible Pete's a lot like Belichick?
He is in certain ways as far as what he demands. He just demands it in a different way.
What do you mean?
Okay? He demands perfection. How do you get perfection? Okay? Perfect practice is what you have to have. And practice doesn't make perfect. A lot of people always say that. No, perfect practice does. So he demands his team to compete on practice field.
Oh, no, there's nothing like it.
Exactly. And that translates into the games. And you got to have the talent. He's got great talent. Well, guess what? When you have both of those, it's magical. And that's what he has. And they want to run through a brick wall for him.
Yeah.
There were other guys, there's other coaches that have great talent that make them compete. But guess what? They maybe don't want to run through a brick wall for you. You know, that added 1 or 2% makes them now a potential Super Bowl champion 2 years in a row.
Martellus Bennett said this yesterday. He said, Seattle likes to tackle. He goes,
oh, they love
every guy in this league he goes, you think they do. He goes, Seattle, you watch them. They like elbows, and they rub it in.
They're the only team that meditates, I'm going to hit the you-know-what out of you. They do.
That's their mantra.
That's their mantra. Okay?
When you were in the NFL, you were a hitter.
Yeah.
You loved it.
Yes.
You sought it. You liked to hear guys wince. Did you ever play with a guy and you thought, he's a finesse player? Like this, he doesn't, like it's for the check maybe? I mean, because everybody thinks football players are all tough.
There were guys that were absolutely playing for a check. Okay, absolutely, you knew it. Okay, they were the superstar talent guys that didn't last very long. Okay, but the guys that that had the talent, that put in the work, the Ray Lewis type. Ray had talent, and he had work ethic and drive, and he loved the game. That's a rare combination. Jerry Rice on offense, he had all of that.
And loved the game, and we say this. Everybody's got talent. It's much more rare than fans think that the greatest players have the greatest work ethic. Like, you think it would just work that way. You go look at the NBA. Like, Kobe's a workaholic.
Yes.
MJ was a workaholic. But you'd be shocked how many guys, like, they get to college, and it's like, I can make good scratch, and I can party, and I can on the field, would you know if a guy?
But what you're saying there, it's the guys that can last in the game. I don't care what the game is, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. The ones that last are the ones that love it and the ones that work at it. And
was Ray Lewis the best linebacker you ever saw?
Yes. Best inside linebacker, hands down.
When was the first time you saw him?
When he got in the league, when he first got in the league, early in his career, we were playing them in the playoffs. First round, we were a wild card, and we went to play them, and our coaches did a study on him for the entire season. And they looked at how many times he got blocked. He got blocked 9 times that entire season. Are you kidding me? He got blocked 9 times.
Because people were intimidated by him? Or?
No, it was that he had that front line, the Saraguses, the big guys. You couldn't get to him. And that started making him special. And beyond that, he knew the game inside and out. He studied it. You just knew he was always at the right place at the right time. You don't do that without those kind of instincts. You got to know it's coming before it's coming.
He was only a 3-star recruit. I asked him about that. He goes, he went, I think it was Florida State, and they didn't love him. And I think Ray admitted, like, he almost cried. He always wanted to be like a Seminole. I think that's the story. He told me on set one time, and they're like, "You're just not big enough." Because Ray's not he's not Urlacher. He's not 6'5". No. He doesn't have your size. It just goes to show. And I always felt Aaron Rodgers has this. Ray played with a chip. when the great ones have a chance. Brady's still bitter about that draft.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's what I love to see that kind of intensity out of a quarterback.
Aaron Rodgers still gets mad if you talk about his height. Like, it bothers him. Like, Aaron, you're like great-looking guy. You're the best quarterback in the league. You're an unbelievable talent. He's got a chip.
That separates.
And
that helps make them not just great, the best.
Legends.
The best that ever play the game.
Great seeing you, man.
Awesome.
Lovely wife. Great seeing you. By the way, they put, and I say this, I'm in awe of this. I just lost a passing of our dog, Bugsy. You actually treat your animals with a different level of respect.
Yeah, I put my dog had a torn ACL.
Yeah.
And it's common in dogs.
Yes.
We put him in the hyperbaric instead of getting the dog operated on.
How'd it work?
Great. He was healed. He was healed in 2 months.
That's the most amazing story I've ever heard. You put your dog in a hyperbaric chamber.
Absolutely.
That is amazing. My wife already likes you. We're going to get a dog and put it in a hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, and then for recover, on top of the hyperbaric, to work on its running again and walking, it was in a underwater treadmill.
Has anybody ever told you you're a genius?
No.
That's never been discussed on American radio before. That's the most unbelievable thing.
The things that I did in the NFL, 10, 15 years ago, now my dog's doing it. And now the rest of the NFL is going to copy my dog.
That's amazing, dude.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
He's an 87-year-old billionaire. His name is Tom Benson. He owns the Saints. And his family and Tom Benson, they're now suing each other. His daughter is suing him. His granddaughter and his relatives are now suing him because I think they want a part of the action. And last time I was at the Super Bowl in New Orleans, I talked to a couple people in that city, and they said that Tom Benson thing's not going to end well. Like the family, the money. He's 87. He's a billionaire. And he's got a lady in his life, and he's going to leave it to her. He wanted to give it to his kids, he said, but they're not ready to rise to the occasion and run his empire. I don't know why, first of all, why do kids always think they have a right to dad's and mom's inheritance? What is that whole thing about? If dad's 87 and he wants to kick it with a waitress, and he's going to leave it to the waitress, Dad made the dough. You kids went to prep school. You got your BMWs. You went on vacations in Cancun. You got your stuff. Leave the man alone to kick it with Sandy. I don't get it, man. Kids are like, hey, where is hey, you don't get it. You got it living with Dad. Dad provided the camps and the good stuff and the fun and the sailing trips. But now Dad's 87. And he wakes up in the morning, and he's got 2 years left. Wants to roll around a little at the end. Part of the deal is I'll leave you with the money. That's an industry. We're in Scottsdale. That's an industry. Find the old guy about to kick it, deal with him for a year and a half, and take his loot. He wants to hang out with Ginger, not the Root, the dancer. I don't understand that. Frank Sinatra did it best. Frank Sinatra was the greatest. So when Frank Sinatra died, he put it in his will that if anybody contested the will, you were automatically out. It's why doesn't did you hear about the Casey Kasem death? Ted Williams, Joan Rivers now? It's just awful. Just awful, the legacies. Tom Benson's a little out there. He's a little goofy, and he's 87, and he's, he grew up in a generation where you partied hard and you probably didn't always go to bed early, and he lives in New Orleans. That city will wear you out. And so now, end of his life, he's having a little fun. He wants to leave it to somebody. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to leave my kids with a bootleg DVD of American Sniper and maybe a Hyundai and get lost. That's all I'm leaving my kids. I'm not leaving my kids anything. You're rude. You are terrible. The worst thing you can do is leave them rich. Then they get a coke problem and end up, in L.A. So the last thing I want to do is leave my kids with, hey, here's $8 million. Like I'd have that. Here's $8 million. Oh, great. I never have to work for it. You ever met a trust fund kid? The worst. Seriously. They're like a mess. Kind of went off the rails there. Sorry about that. You're listening to The Herd on ESPN Radio, available in the sports section on the free TuneIn Radio app. We're live from Fashion Square in Scottsdale, Arizona. I went out last night, and I can't get into specifics. I'm not going to get into specifics, but, man, what a great night. Like an all-timer last night. It was just crazy. But you know what? I'm writing a second book. I'll talk about it in my second book. You know, sometimes there's things I can't talk about on the radio. Last night's one of those things. It was crazy. No kids last night. That's all I'm saying. But they'll get the bootleg DVD of American Sniper. They'll get that. I really do. As we get closer to the game, it is, like I said before, if you took Deflategate out, I'd take New England. Because I think, you know, one of the things that's become pretty clear is Seattle's been struggling at home to beat the Packers in Carolina. And they're not bad teams, but I mean, can we say this? Seattle's kind of lucky to be here. New England has destroyed everybody they've played for 3 months. Baltimore had them down twice, 2 touchdowns. Boom, boom, boom. I got to tell you, Seattle could very easily not be here. And remember last year at the end of the year, like how Denver was really good last year, but they struggled at home playoffs. San Diego struggled home playoffs. New England, and you're like, New England was beat up physically. San Diego barely got into the playoffs. And after Seattle beat them, you're like, you know, Denver really wasn't great in the last month. They really weren't. Seattle offensively, you know, if Marshawn Lynch doesn't have space, they're not doing a lot. They're not doing a lot offensively. And this defense for New England is a lot better than Green Bay's, I think. A lot better than Dallas would have been. I think it's better than Carolina's. Maybe not a lot. Seattle has struggled to move the football this year. They got rid of Percy Harvin and Golden Tate. So they lack kind of an oomph with the passing game. Now, Russell Wilson is better, and the offensive line is healthier. But, I mean, if I watch the Seahawks on tape and I'm Bill Belichick, who's made his money on defense, I'm looking at Seattle thinking, guys, we can kind of cheat on this team a little bit. I know it's a bad word with New England. But you can say to I know it's a bad word, right? But you can say to yourself, they're not going to beat us through the air. Our DBs and their receivers, they don't have special people. They're not bad. They're not special. New England's corners are special. Jamie Collins, Rob Ninkovich, those are way above average players. And I think they can jam that box and say, beat us with Marshawn. You're not beating us over the top. I think it's low scoring. I really do, unless New England makes a lot of mistakes. If New England doesn't turn the ball over, I think you're looking at you could be in the teens. I really do. I really think this could be a very low-scoring game. By the way, Mike, you're in the herd, buddy. Go ahead. Thanks for calling the show.
Oh, just a little add a little support to your argument. Warren Buffett's pretty clear that he's leaving nothing to his kids, so can't argue with his logic and money now, can you?
No. Warren Buffett's leaving his kids squad?
Nothing.
That's awesome.
Will his kid nothing. So,
by the way, he's leaving them nothing, and they'll like it. That's great. That was a great add to that story. Warren Buffett's leaving his kids zip.
Great story.
I mean, it really was a great story.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline and simulcast on ESPNU. Welcome in this morning. It is Wednesday, and you can feel it. It's palpable. It's the lull day at the Super Bowl. It's the lull day. First couple days, everybody gets fired up. Last couple days, tomorrow, Friday, all the big stars roll into town. It's not only hump day, it's lull day. You can feel the energy kind of go down, down. Everybody's kind of waiting for tomorrow night when everybody gets into town. Yesterday, they had media day. I don't go to media day. I gave up on it about a decade ago. It is what it is. I don't have a problem with it. Just not my thing. Marshawn Lynch didn't talk. It's a collective bargained opportunity. When anybody complains, here's what's funny about players. And I would never interview a guy that didn't want to talk. I've talked about that. But whenever players complain about stuff, remember when Adrian Peterson had a situation and players were outraged that Roger Goodell and Roger Goodell alone handed down the punishment? Players, you collectively bargained that. You gave him that power. Because here's the truth about not only professional football players, pro athletes. Every generation thinks they invented the game. Every generation, when they have the opportunity to vote, always takes money over insurance, pensions later. They take the money now. And, sometimes you hear these like 50, 60, 70-year-old former players. Nobody cares about us. You want to know the truth that nobody ever brings up? When those guys were 28, you know what they used to say? Screw the old guys. We are the league. Every generation cares about themselves and not the previous generation in football. These players who don't want to talk, and I'm not a guy that wants to talk to Marshawn Lynch, but you have to realize you do have to talk. And you players signed on, you got to talk. You signed up for it. So go to your union representative. That's what, 99% of the players in the league, they don't pay attention during these union meetings. They don't pay attention. It's like, what can I get now? How much more money can I get? Well, then they get upset when Roger Goodell has certain rights and powers that they didn't pay attention and they gave him. It's like another thing players really bargain for is less practice. Well, the problem with less practice is NFL's got more penalties and more mistakes. Teams don't practice as much. So most quarterbacks don't want less practice. They don't want less practice. They want more practice, so when they draft offensive linemen, they get the most practice as college to the pros to protect the quarterback. A lot of the linemen are like, I don't like practice. So as far as Marshawn Lynch, I would never have any interest talking to a guy that didn't want to talk to me. But you players, if you want to have like a no-talk list, and you could certainly in this country, we have a no-fly zone, a no-fly list. You could have a no-talk list. We have exemptions for everything. Who's that player for the Baltimore Orioles? Chris Davis. He's got like a ADD, Adderall exemption. Pro sports it's full of exemptions. And you can get TSA approved when you go to the airport. Takes you all day to do it. You go through the process, then you can just walk through TSA. Marshawn Lynch players, if you don't want to talk, then fight for a no-talk exemption list. You could get it. But you want more money. You want more stuff. You want another boat. You want another car. So don't complain about it when the league forces you to do what you signed up to do. Oh, I thought something was interesting, and nobody's given this much context. Bill Belichick wore his flip-flops, was hanging out. He said two things. He was talking to a little girl. Let's play the first bite.
What stuffed animals do I like? I like a little puppet that you can kind of put your fingers in. It's a little monkey, and then he can talk and move his fingers and nod his head, and so he can kind of talk back to you. What's your favorite stuffed animal?
Then he asked the little girl about her hair.
Can I ask you one question? Did your daddy fix your hair?
Now, I will acknowledge, if you just hear those sound bites by themselves without really any context, they're a tad creepy. But here's the context. That's Jared Mayo's daughter. Jared Mayo is a great player for the Patriots. Last couple of years, he's been banged up. That is Bill Belichick's arguably favorite player of all time. That's his daughter. So I know if you just hear Bill Belichick saying this randomly.
What's your favorite stuffed animal?
Yeah, that's odd. I'm not going to lie to you. If you went to a bar tomorrow night and used these as pickup lines,
did your daddy fix your hair?
You get punched in the forehead. They're all really, really weird when you don't give them a little context. But that's his favorite player's daughter. And Bill Belichick, like any boss, has favorites. He'd take a bullet for Gerard Mayo. Like, it is Bill's. A lot of people, he'll go to Gerard Mayo and ask, hey, how do the players respond to that? You think it's Brady, right? You think Belichick's close to Brady. He could be closer to Gerard Mayo. Like, they are boys. Like, Bill goes to him, brings him in the office. How are the players responding? Wants him to be eventually a coach on his staff. So I know it sounds kind of weird, odd, creepy, and if you said those things and take them out of context, it's really, really uncomfortable, but that's the story behind the story.
What's your favorite stuffed animal?
Yeah, I mean, that's just, it sounds weird.
Did your daddy fix your hair?
It's just not, I'm not comfortable even listening to them again. They're all really, really creepy. So
Did your daddy fix your hair?
Just stop it, Bill. Stop it right now. I can't take it anymore. Opening rant brought to you by Regis, 1-800-OFFICES, 1-800-OFFICES. So Dan Stanzik, I'm married, Vince is married, John's married, Dan is single. And, I'm sure Dan dates and whatever, I don't really care. But I saw this so I saw this. And again, I'm a married guy, so I don't care. I basically pay for everything. But I saw this study done from NerdWallet. It's like a site, and it asked men and women who should pick up the bill on the first date. So it asked men first. 78% of men said, yeah, I should pick up the entire bill. 18% of guys said, maybe we could split it. Almost no men, like 3%, thought the woman should pay for the bill. So most men, if you do the numbers here, it is 77, 87, it's 97% of guys think they should pay for all of it, or at minimum split it. But here's what's very interesting. When they asked women who should pay for the bill, 0% said, I should pay for all of it. And Stanzik, I know what you're thinking when you read that. Where are all the feminists now? Where's your gold card? So, Dan, can I ask you?
I don't know where we're going here, but it's your show. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, the 2 or 3 times that you would have female companionship in a year, who picks up the check as a single guy?
It's me and me always.
Okay. Because a lot of women, they like chivalry. I know that's not politically correct. My wife always says, I like being a woman. Like, I like women's stuff. So I thought that was very interesting. So, we always clobber guys. The landscape is changing, but, women, all I'm saying is maybe once in a while that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Maybe once in a while, if you ever meet a Dan Stanzik, you could drop a hundy. I don't have to worry about
sports tape. Yeah, hold the door open for me.
Yeah, why don't you hold the door open
right.
for Dan Stanzik and his Datsun? Why don't you hold that door open for him? So I had a discussion last night and with an NFL player. And he wasn't upset, but he thinks the NFL is protecting its arse in this Deflategate. And I'm going to get to that next.
You're in the herd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
So I'm talking to an NFL player yesterday, and he said, let's be honest. The NFL is a good old boys club. It is a grind. And the owners are going to do whatever the owners want to do. A lot of people, and I've said this for years, if you look at NFL coaches, even the successful ones, they look beat up by 55. I mean, they look beat up. The league beats you up. It's a grind. It's just a lot of work. And college football coaches just look younger. I mean, Mac Brown is whatever Mac Brown is post-60. Nick Saban's post-60 looks 50. Saban's almost mid-60s. Looks like a 50-year-old guy. Looks great. You take an NFL coach who's 58, dude, he looks 65. Just like my buddies always say about New York and L.A., the difference. You take a 50-year-old guy in New York, he looks 54. You take a 50-year-old guy in L.A., he looks 44. It's a 10-year swing. It's the weather. You have more space. You don't have the density. Look what the White House does to the president. I mean, look at Obama's hair like 7 years ago. Look at him now. So, like, certain things age you. Certain cities, certain weather, certain pressures. The NFL ages you. It beats you up. And one of the things that and this person I was talking to has been very successful. So he doesn't hold anything against the league. The league's done him well. But he said the NFL can be hypocrites. It's a good old boys club. If there's 32 owners in the NFL, it's the best ownership. It's the best job in the world. Like Arthur Blank owned Home Depot. That's a great gig. He gave up all his privacy to get into the NFL. Because the NFL is a stock that only goes up. It's a stock that only goes up. Home Depot could go bankrupt. A lot of big companies do. Sears, not the NFL. So these owners take care of themselves. They take care of their families. They take care of themselves. And what some rub this player the wrong way is this Deflategate thing. Back in 2003, the NFL was thinking about changing the ball and doing some things, and they wanted 12 people on a phone call. And one of them was like Peyton Manning, right? And Peyton Manning was kind of like outspoken on the phone call. He said, why don't you just let us quarterbacks worry about the footballs? Why are you monkeying around with the footballs? You guys don't even touch them. And so Peyton Manning's got a lot of power in this league, and Peyton Manning's word should mean a lot and does. And so Peyton Manning was kind of outspoken as, why can't we have a little more control over the football home and away? The NFL's known this for years. And the NFL's known about this quarterback-ball boy relationship. It's sort of an unwritten rule in the league. Like everybody gets it. Baseball's got dozens of unwritten rules. Golf, you don't walk in front of somebody's line. There's all sorts of they don't have to be written down on a piece of paper. Baseball's got thousands of them. Bill Romanowski's coming on next hour. He'll tell me about things he did. They're just they're not huge competitive advantages, but they're little edges, and players do them, and the leagues know about them. And what bothers the person I talk to and some NFL players is, come on, NFL. This has been going around for a decade. You know it's been going on. Now it goes public, and to protect your arse, it's, whoa, this is outrageous. Oh, give me a break. You've known this is going on forever. It's one of those things in an industry. Whatever you do for a living, whatever you do, there's probably something you do at work that it's not like legal or illegal. It's just an edge. It's something, and your boss knows it, but it's one of those I don't want to see it. Maybe it's an expense report. I just don't want to see it. So when it goes public, wouldn't it be hypocritical if the boss went, I'm furious? You'd be like, you knew about it and always told me you didn't want to know about that expense report. That's what's bothering some NFL players. It's like one of these baseball unwritten rules. The league knows this thing's been going on forever. Ball boy, quarterback, kind of figure it out, play around, scuff it up, put it in the dryer, do what you do. Just don't make the ball look bad on television was always the rule. That's what the league said. You can kind of do what you want with a football. Because if you keep scuffing that thing, it gets darker and darker and darker. We don't want the football to look lousy on television. Because you can scuff it up, put it in the dryer, scrape it down. They're like, just know that it's on television. That's kind of the unspoken thing. Everybody got that. So that's what some guys are upset about. It's an unwritten rule. People know it. Now it's been outed, and you're acting like you're outraged by it when you know what's going on. You were on the phone call in 2003. You were on it. So Pete Carroll, he was talking yesterday. Pete Carroll took over for Bill Parcells. And remember, Bill Parcells left the Patriots. And when Bill Parcells left the Patriots, he said, listen, if I have to make the dinner, I get a shot for some of the groceries. Remember that famous line? So Parcells, like a lot of coaches, wanted more power. Then they brought in Pete Carroll. And Pete wasn't terrible. I think he went from Parcells handed him 11 wins. Pete took it to 10, to 9, to 8. It was a slow erosion. When Pete got whacked and they hired Belichick, Pete didn't ruin it. But it went the wrong way. And then Belichick comes in. So for Pete Carroll, because he couldn't keep the team as good as Parcells, NFL legend, and because he was then replaced by the next legend, Bill Belichick, there was a long process for Pete Carroll that he had to kind of reinvent himself. Because, as we always say, if I walk into a room with Jesse Palmer, I never try to be in the same room with Jesse Palmer because he's so good looking. And I'm not much to look at, but when I'm in a room with Jesse Palmer, it's like I look like sandpaper. So whenever I see Jesse Palmer at ESPN, I just take an exit. I go to the bathroom. I never want to be in the same room with him. So for a long time, Pete Carroll was like compared to Parcells and Belichick. Two of the best 5 coaches in the game last 50 years. And people don't understand this. Pete Carroll had to reinvent himself. And what's great about America, and what's great about America's got a very short memory, A, and B, we really do like redemption stories. Like America likes that. We like to see Tony Bennett at like 70 get cool again. Remember Tony Bennett was like cool, disappeared 30 years. All of a sudden at 70, everybody's like, Tony Bennett's back. He didn't go anywhere. America, short memory, and we love redemption stories. So between Parcells, Belichick, Pete Carroll comes in, fails, goes to the Jets, fails, goes to USC 6-6, was mocked. What's amazing about Pete Carroll, and it's a great message out there in this country, you can reinvent yourself. When Pete Carroll got hired, I remember reading the LA Times. They had Paul Hackett, NFL guy, bombed. When Pete Carroll got hired, it was like worst hire ever. Then he goes 6-6 first year. Next year, he's kind of scraping around. Loses at Kansas State, loses to Washington State. Then about midseason, he goes to Oregon. They have an unbelievable second half with Carson Palmer and Mike Williams. That moment on, it was game 7. That point for the next 6 years, he owned college football. But Pete Carroll really reinvented himself. Now, he didn't necessarily change as a person, but he got coupled with a guy I brought on a couple days ago, Yogi Roth, and Pete's kind of an evolving kind of California spirit. It's a great message out there. Like, you can be 50. Pete Carroll basically rewrote his Wikipedia page at 55 years old. He's like, oh, here's my Wikipedia page. I'm going to completely rewrite it. It's kind of an amazing thing. It speaks well of us. You, us, the country. Damian Woody's around the corner. We're live from Fashion Square in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's like the day before the big day. All these people, all these camera people. Did you guys go out drinking last night? A lot of thumbs up. I sense a lull today around Scottsdale. You know what? We all had the expense report last night. I understand it. Completely get it. I was in bed, of course, by 8, but I understand if you did that.